Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for Sourcing at the webinar. If you guys are not able to hear my voice, please raise your hand or please put it up in the chat box and our technical team will help you. So the webinar will start in another 2 minutes, so please stand by. So good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening for the webinar, Sourcing Adda's first webinar this year. First year meaning we just had our annual event, TaskOn, and it was a great event. We met a lot of you guys there, and we hope to have another event next year. So with some more exciting speakers and more exciting events. Okay. So today's webinar, we have Megha Raina from SAS as our host, and she'll be talking on expectations meeting with the hiring manager. Okay. So before I hand over the mic to Megha, I would like to tell you about Sourcing Adda and its planning this year. Okay. So we have got a lot of exciting activities for you guys. So to just start off, we have made some slight changes in the timings for this webinar. So it will be the third Wednesday around 8 p.m. So this is just on a trial basis. So if you guys have some questions, have some feedback for us, please email us or get in touch with the team and give your comments if you want some change in the time. Okay. If you guys want a topic, a particular topic to be discussed on a particular webinar, please let us know. We'll try to get this on a webinar. If you guys want to host a webinar, or you can also get in touch with us, and we will see that we try to discuss on your topic and have you as a host on our Sourcing at the webinar show. Okay, so well, TaskOn was a great event, and I hope you guys were present, or if not present, then you must have seen the Twitter stream and also on social media. So we hope to get the similar response next year as well. About the sourcing contest, so a lot of people, you might be excited for the sourcing contest by Sourcing Adda. So we have got something very nice planned for you, something very exciting. So we'll release the news soon as everything is ready. Okay. About the new timing, so the tweet chat dates remain the same, which is the first Wednesday. Okay, and the webinar. For more events, we will give out from our Sourcing Adda Twitter handle. So please watch Sourcing Adda handle, and we will give out the news about our future events. So I hand over the mic to Megha now. So Megha, over to you.
Thank you, Chinmay. Am I audible well?
Yes, Megha, we can hear you, so you can start speaking.
All right. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking out time to know more about this topic. I'm hopeful that this is going to be a helpful session for many who do not really have a structured hiring expectation meeting in their organization. And in case you have, you could really take some tips back and start implementing. Thanks to Sourcing Adda team, Chinmay, Yusuf, and everybody for accepting this topic, as this is really not a very hands-on sourcing related topic yet, but I'm sure this is going to be helpful in setting your sourcing strategy in your companies. About me, I work with SAS Research and Development in Pune. SAS is a leader in business intelligence and business analytics. My role here gives me an opportunity to handle some parts of all three areas of talent acquisition, talent development, and talent management. So while I'm currently leading the hiring for SAS R&D in India, I'm also involved in training and talent management areas. My mixed role has helped me get all the dimensions of pre and post hiring process in a company. Apart from this, I love writing HR related articles. I'm involved in career counselings. Uh, about today's topic, coming to the main thing, our topic is expectations meeting with the hiring manager. I plan to take you through important pointers that you will need to keep in mind before and during the meeting. Our aim is to have a set pattern which will help you make these meetings more successful and make your hiring managers more accountable for the hiring. That's actually what everybody strives for. So let's take a look at the broader contents. We will go through expectations meeting, the relevance. We'll discuss why should we have it in the first place. Preparation, which means all the pre-planning that a sourcer or a recruiter needs to do before getting into that meeting. Third comes the discussion, asking the right questions, brainstorming, negotiating. We will discuss all of this in detail. And after we are done with the discussion, we need to have a workable hiring plan, which is ultimately the aim of that meeting. And in the end, I would be really glad to answer any questions that come up in the end. You can type in your questions in the chat box and Tanmay is going to direct those to me. All right, so we are set with our contents. Now the first thing, why have this expectations meeting? Now, while I have always emphasized on having this meeting, there have been times that a technical manager is not very keen on this meeting and just said that, Megha, everything that you want is in the job description. Why do we have this meeting? At those points, it's very important to let them know that just as a project or a product requirement gathering meeting is important with the client, this is essential for us too. It helps us know what exactly you want rather than just presuming what could be the need. I would always say that it's preferred to be in person, but if not possible, you must do it over phone. Now let's look at the first important reason to have this meeting. Clear communication. Uh, Most of the companies today have standardized job descriptions for the vanilla skills where most of the important related technologies are mentioned. For example, if you look at a Java developer JD, you will see core Java, J2E, JSP, Spring, Hibernate, Swing, everything written all together. So to be able to know the exact weightage of the requirement, we need to have this meeting. Now when you get this Java job description, you need to confirm whether you're actually looking for a basic core Java guy or you want an advanced Java developer. So such meetings, and I've seen that, at the end of such meetings, recruiters have asked for a change in the job description to be able to attract the right set of people for such roles. You discuss about the process setups, you discuss about the accountabilities, and in general, you minimize any confusion that could be caused in the end. So clear communication is going to be the first thing. The next is strategy for your hiring. So deciding on what and where you should hire the talent from is best to be heard from the manager himself. While this meeting lets you make the hiring strategy with the manager, it also helps you gain his trust because the manager kind of understands the efforts that you're going to take for his hiring. You discuss with him where the pool is, how to target that pool, and he knows all of these things that are part of the strategy. The third thing is action plan. Now during this meeting, you always set all the action plans that you, manager, or the interview panel members need to take to make this hiring agile. You kind of collaborate better. You agree on action items, be it increasing referral bonus for a particular hire, be it getting in the walk-in weekend availabilities, be it campus hiring at a different location. You set it all documented at the first place. So three top things that I would always say is having a clear communication, making a good strategy, and then having an action plan. These three things make it very important to have an expectations meeting. We move on to the next part, which is preparation for that meeting. Now, before you get into that meeting, you need to be prepared with what you want to ask. You need to be prepared on what you want to negotiate on. But you need to have your facts and your research in place. Now, ultimately, you're going to be speaking to a technical person, correct? And a technical person will never believe in you until you show him the technicalities related to whatever you're going to say. For them, it's what you show, not really what just you say. So I would say the first thing should be going through the job description and understanding how handy your skill comes. So we look at, is your skill very common, like a Java or a C++ developer? Is it very niche? Maybe your company hires in a very niche domain. Is it a combination skill? Probably your company wants you to hire a compensation expert who's also worked in a training department. Or it's a skill that has come new in the market. Many times the projects come in and even your company is working for the first time on that technology. I'll take a pause and make a point here that if such situation comes when you're going to hire a completely new skill and you haven't heard about that word before, please do Google about it and get some idea. This really impresses your hiring managers. I have tried it many times. And the last thing is a skill which is an idea, which actually only exists in the mind of your hiring manager. Giving you an example, a manager sometimes can ask you for a person who is an MSc statistics, programs in Java, and does performance testing. Now, that can really exist in dreams of your manager, but in reality, it's 3 different people. So make sure you categorize your position. Try to see if it's an easy, average, difficult, or an impossible hire. The next point that we do is job market check. Now, just when you know what skill are you going to hire, it's important to know who else is hiring for the same kind of talent. Are there many companies who are hiring such talent, or are there very few who have this kind of technology working on? And knowing not only how many companies, it's also very important to find which exact companies are hiring or have such skills. Now, take an example that you take 4 names of such companies to your hiring manager, and he will actually direct you to 2 companies and say that, I feel these 2 companies are more relevant to the kind of work we do. And he has that trust in you of being an analyst for him. Yeah, so do a market check before you get into that meeting. The third thing is market analysis. Now, how you source potential candidates will also depend on where the talent is located. It's important to find out, are there qualified candidates in your city, or will you need to relocate them from other cities? It helps us in putting the plan or forecasting like relocation budget, relocation time, any outstation drives that you may want to plan. Also, if there are smaller number of candidates with your skill requirements, you may want to discuss an on-the-job training for your employees. I'll give you a very recent example that I had for an on-the-job training, and I had to kind of plan a parallel track for it. I received a position where I had to find a chartered accountant who was supposed to join a testing team and be the financial domain expert. And eventually he was going to be working on some part of automation testing also. So the first thing for me was to find out whether such chartered accountants exist who agree to do testing while they are domain experts. And to my surprise, I did find that there are some IT sectors of banks where there is very less automation part working, which CAs are taking care of. But that was very less. My skill pool was very small. So the first thing that I did in my expectations meeting was telling the hiring manager that my candidates are going to be extremely good chartered accountants. They might have very good domain knowledge, but you will have to train them on testing. You will have to probably even train them on how to be in an IT environment because they might be from banks. So do this market analysis and get all the knowledge to your hiring manager. Hiring trend analytics. Now, this is an important one. I feel every recruiter should kind of analyze whatever you have hired or you're going to hire. Find out how long did it take you to hire for that position last time, or what was the average of last 3 years that you took to hire such positions. You can also do an external rough check by finding out how many such positions are posted more than 30 days in the market. I often take this information with me to my hiring managers, especially if they're hiring for the first time, because you need to get them prepared for any changes that you need in the requirement. Now, this helps your managers know the history, understand the current trend in the market, and you can always negotiate on any unrealistic expectations that you can hear. Get your trend analytics correct. The last would be sample profiles. Now, when you read the job description and you get a very rough idea, bring those sample resumes or screenshots from potential candidates to your manager. You can show that to your hiring manager and tell him these are the type of candidates that exist. Ask him that if you brought in the same type of candidates on the table, would he find them acceptable? This again sets a very realistic expectation of what skills are common and what makes it a combination or a niche skill. So recapping on what preparations you need to do, you need to make sure you know what kind of skill you're going to hire. Is it a common or is it a niche skill? You need to make sure to understand which companies are hiring for a similar talent, and eventually they could be your source. Find out how is your skill pool availability. Sometimes it can also happen that there is a place where a specific certification happens and that location becomes your direct pool for that hire. Find out how long did it take to fill the position last time, and then yes, take along some sample profiles. Now we move on to the next part, which is discussion. So you did all your research, you're all prepared, and you have some idea of what the hiring manager is going to ask you. You immediately go, you schedule that meeting, and you get onto that meeting. Let's see how should we go for that discussion. Hold on here. Before you start asking anything, let your hiring manager explain you why does he need what he needs. This is going to help you explain the role better to your candidates. Now, it can also happen that you feel one of the skills is not really very important, but while you listen to him, you realize the business impact it's going to make to have those skilled candidates join the team. Let your manager explain you the role. Let him explain you everything that will attract a candidate to this role. Let him also explain you the job challenges or what challenges can you face while you're sourcing the candidate. This all is going to help you prepare your hiring speech when you speak to your candidates. So note it all down before you get on to the next step, which is your time to ask the questions. Now, we all recruiters really enjoy asking too many questions to our hiring managers. So start with asking, what will an ideal candidate be like? What is a must to have? What is a good to have? Or what is just desired to have? This is going to help you put your prime search criteria. Ask your manager questions about education, experience, any certifications, or any specific distinct keyword that a resume can have, which will make the resume more relevant. There are sometimes one role can be called as different role in other organization. So ask your managers, what else is this role called outside? To give you a simple example, a pre-sales consultant can be called as business analyst or a project analyst in some of the companies. We've seen the basic difference of, in companies, somebody is called a software developer, somebody is called product developer or software engineer, member technical staff. So these are going to be some of the role names that exist in different organizations. The third part is never say sure, never say never. Now, this is probably a rule for life and not just for this meeting. If your manager has asked you for something that you haven't hired before or you have no idea about, ask him for 2 days time before you research and then commit. I won't say ever that you should say no, because that won't enchant your manager, and don't say yes until you're sure of what you can deliver. Take your time, take a day or two, and come back to him with whatever you think. The next point is going to be no cloning. Now, this is something that happens everywhere. You know, we often hear our managers saying that, I just need a person like Mr. X who left my team, or I need a person like Miss Y who is such a dynamic profile. She has been with me for past 5 years. They actually are looking for a technical clone of what exists or what has left them. And somewhere internally, it's just not a technical clone. They're looking for a similar behavioral traits also. So be the advocate of your manager. Help him understand that such dynamic profiles and skills evolve over time. People who are currently multi-skilled have learned it over the job. Probably when they were hired, they had just one skill, but eventually they also got exposure to all the skills. So never let your manager clone the people that have left or exist inside. You sometimes also need to let them know that new hires really can be trained and can be better employees. The last part is, who does this best? Ask your manager about the direct competitor, any references, forums that exist, any events that are happening where you can go and try to connect, any other networking ways, any coding contests happening around. Also ask him who has been his best hire until now in the past. That will kind of give you an idea of what's the ideal for this position. You can sometimes go and even talk to that person that when you were hired 4 years back, what exactly was your skill? You know, that kind of gives you an idea of what your manager is looking for, even though he's not able to 100% explain it to you. Recapping whatever is going to be in the discussion, understand the job background, understand the business need, ask questions, and note down everything that your manager says, what an ideal candidate should be like. Try to negotiate if you feel the manager is asking for too much. He cannot always have everything that he asks for, but try to negotiate in between on some of the, probably on the experience, on the education, on the certification. Take your time to do your research and come back to him before you commit. Current people might have evolved with such skills, but believe me, new hires can be trained too. And then do ask your manager about competitor product, forums, or the projects. Now, after knowing almost all the requirement specifications, now it's your time to set the action plan. And when you go to do that, you see a number of ways through which you can reach a candidate, or you really are confused which way to take first. So start your sourcing strategy with your hiring manager. Decide whether the position needs to be just hired from a direct competitor, probably how it happens in sales profiles. The first thing that you do is you hit the direct competitor first. Or does the position require you to do a campus hiring from probably say some specific schools? Or do you want to do weekend drives? Is it a vanilla skill and you're going to get too many people? You really want to have too many people come in and have the interview panel come on a weekend? Are there any specific job forums where you want to post this position? Or is employee referral the best source for this position? You know, you can kind of find out too many sourcing channels, but your hiring manager will help you decide what is the most relevant and appropriate channel for that hire. So along with him, find the best sourcing channels. The next part is going to be interview panel meet. This is something that I always emphasize on whenever I meet my hiring managers. Meeting the panel and explaining them what you're looking at is very important. And if a recruiter does it, if a recruiter facilitates that meeting, there's nothing like it. Because interview panels sometimes might not know what is priority one technical skill to be looked at. And honestly speaking, the way sometimes job descriptions are made, everything looks extremely important. So an interviewer can reject a person on a skill that was just good to have and not must to have. So do make sure there is an open dialogue between your hiring manager and the interviewers. And anytime when you have set up an interview and your interview rejects a person based on a skill that was just desired to have, you can refer back to your interview panel meet that happened. Yeah. The third thing is interview process. Now, while I'm talking about all this, I can tell you we are going to send a quiz at the end of it. There is going to be a poll and some exciting prizes also. So probably everybody be on your toes. So we come back to interview process. Now, all the companies have their set interview processes in terms of number of rounds that you have, the type of rounds that you have, your coding, tests, or video conferences, everything. And while you're in the discussion of deciding on the interview steps, it's important to check that the skill that you're hiring for, does it require you to do something differently in the interview process? Be very open to it always. Does it require you to do a technical test before the telephonic round? Or does it require your hiring manager to really make a selling pitch before you have the candidates come for a telephonic discussion? Get in your HRBPs, your hiring managers and other stakeholders in confidence and make any change that will require to make this hiring more agile. The next part comes setting up SLAs. Now define your SLAs very clearly with the panel and the manager. When should a resume feedback come? When should the interview feedback come? And when should be the next round set up? Ideally, an resume feedback should come within 24 hours of time, and an interview feedback should come to you within 48 hours of time. It can depend on the way your organizations work, but stick to your timelines and make them stick to theirs. Show your hiring manager how important their agility is to make this hire easy. Yeah. The next point is weekly meeting. Now, I'm not too sure of how many organizations follow this strictly, but I can assure you that if you do this, there are going to be very less chances of any miscommunication or blame game in the end of the hire. Set up your weekly meeting with the hiring manager to go through the progress status of your hire. This is actually going to build in confidence in him with the kind of efforts that you're taking every week. This is going to almost motivate him to do his part too. I would say that every 15 days you should relook at your sources. You should discuss on what is going well, what is not going well. Try to change what is not working. In the end, it should look like a collaborative effort, and this is one area where our communication really helps. Set up your weekly meetings. Even sometimes, when you don't have anything to talk about, you're not able to do what was discussed last week, call up your manager and say, how is the weather today? You might get weird replies at times, but then it's going to help you eventually to build that relationship and trust with him. The last part is document your discussion. This is one of the most important things that recruiters forget to do. While few companies have a hiring meeting document, many just do it verbally. So sometimes a hiring verbally starts as a Java architect, and it so happens that by the end of it, the hiring manager and recruiter are settling down for a 3 years Java developer. This has actually changed the complete sourcing strategy of a hire. But do we have any proof of it? No. So document whatever you have discussed, send it to your hiring manager for his acknowledgement. It's a must do that, I would say. So recapping on all the planning points, find your sourcing channels, decide them with your hiring manager, make sure that your interview panel is on the same page with your hiring manager, set up your interview process well, and if it means deviating from the process that you have been following always, be open to do that. Have a weekly meeting with your manager. It could be a 5 minute discussion also. And the must do is documenting everything that you have discussed. Now, another part of planning is clearing the presumptions or some of the myths that exist in the minds of our stakeholders, which are from the business side. Now, before we do this, I'll have Chinmay run a poll, which we had discussed about. Chinmay, are you there?
I'm here. So guys, a poll will be displayed on your screen, so you just have to select your own answer. Okay.
Now, the poll is going to be about, is hiring manager and recruiter equally responsible for hiring? Now, I've often heard hiring managers say that my job is to give the JD, and then recruiter should find and hunt from wherever, and in the end I'm going to select or reject a person. And it's us, it's most of the times us who make them think that way. While this poll is on, I would like to tell you about my opinion. And my opinion about this is that hiring manager is as responsible for hiring as you are. And it is our duty to involve them at each step, because they are going to be connected to the process, and thus they realize that it's their job too. Ultimately when we hire, the candidate is going to work for them, the candidate is going to work with them, and it's very important that a hiring manager gives up his time and energy to hire that candidate. Chinmay, whenever we are ready with the poll results, do let me know.
Sure.
Okay, so make sure your hiring manager realizes how important it is to give that equal attention to hiring as well. We've heard often hiring managers saying that I'm too busy with the next release that's coming up, I'm too busy with the client visit, and I just cannot concentrate on interviewing sometimes. We often have these woes of the hiring manager is not giving feedback, or probably is not available for weeks together. And in the end, it shows up that the lead time for hire for you was 58 days, or probably more than that. And because it's said to be a recruiter's job, right? So
Mega,
again,
I'm
make your
about to close the poll.
all right.
Okay. You want me to share the results immediately?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. On your screen.
Okay. I am not able to see it, Chinmay. Could you
Okay.
please?
So if you're not able to see the screen, I'll just explain. Okay, so Mega, the results are 100% yes, and we just have 0% for no. So all of them who are on today's webinar, they feel that hiring managers and recruiters are equally responsible for hiring.
Okay, I should not have given my opinion first, I think.
Okay.
But yes, I think this is the right thing. Hiring managers are equally responsible, and we should make them realize also, if ever you feel a hiring manager thinks it's not your job, please sit down with him in the weekly meetings that you're going to schedule and make them understand it's equally their job. Okay, so the next point is sourcers or recruiters don't understand technology. Now, you often hear an interview panel or a hiring manager say that the recruiter is not able to pre-screen profiles well because he just doesn't understand technology. This is going to be one of the important factors to have your managers or candidates believe in you. I mean, it only doesn't work for your hiring manager, it works for your candidates as well. So I would always say that try to know about your product, your skill, your tool that you're hiring for. Ask your managers more about the technology. As I told you before, Google the new terms that you hear. Be aware of what market has on that skill that you're hiring. eventually your managers will start believing more in you once you sometimes tell them that this skill is not available, this combination is not available at all. So try to build in that trust and try to understand the technologies that you're hiring. Now this one is my favorite. More candidates will mean better candidates. Managers usually think that they can do better with few more candidates, and if you ask them why, they really don't have an answer. I'm sure it would be happening with you all that the manager says that let's keep this guy on hold and let's look at few more profiles before we come back and take a decision on this one. Next 2 weeks, you keep scheduling interviews, and after 2 weeks, he comes back and says, you know what, that guy was a better guy. I don't know why, but they always feel that the next one is going to be an ideal one. So again, be an advocate, make things clear to them in your weekly meetings, and tell them that the best quality that they're going to see is initial 10 to 15 resumes or in initial 15 days, not more than that. You could always quote some of the past examples or other position examples that you've had. I feel it's only in a party that you could say more the merrier, never in terms of hiring. Okay. The next part is it's always a blame game. We discussed about this before. Uh, your hiring manager talks to the stakeholder or HRBPs about how the position is going, and he says that I'm not receiving the relevant profiles, the recruiter is not able to schedule interviews on time, and thus I'm not able to hire. And when you speak to the stakeholder or when you speak to the HRBP, you say that I never receive feedback on time. Manager is rejecting every candidate that I'm sending, and it becomes a very weird blame game. And in the end, your organization, hiring manager, everybody is getting affected. So understand that hiring is for an asset that you and your hiring manager are bringing to the organization. So any delay or any difficulty that is coming in the way, it should not be a blame on a recruiter or a hiring manager. You should collaborate and try to hire together. Yeah, I hope nobody's now again going to do a blame game with their managers. The last one, which I have heard a lot, and it is, I need only top talent. For every manager who wants to hire this top talent, please do ask them, is this the job, the top job? And if yes, what makes it a top job? You know, at any given point of time, hiring a hardcore Java or hiring a hardcore remedy developer to do the maintenance and support work, that thing is never going to retain him for long. I would make a statement here that the best candidate is not always the ideal candidate for the job. You need to find the right fit, which doesn't always mean the best. Yeah, so these 5 things are something which you need to make sure that your managers understand, your interviewers understand. These are a hidden part of planning that you need to take care of. I hope this all was helpful for you. Maybe sometimes, you know, there are a lot of things that we already know, but we forget to implement. In the end, I would only say that remember it that hiring manager is really not your customer, your company is. Together with the hiring manager, you need to find the right talent for the job your company has. Thank you so much. We are open for questions now. You can connect to me on LinkedIn. In case there's anything that you would want to ask me personally, we can definitely get connected over LinkedIn also. Yeah, Chinmay, over to you.
Thank you, Megha. We do have some time and we will take a couple of questions from the audience. So if you have any questions regarding today's webinar and want to have an expert advice from Megha, please put it up in the chat box, okay? So we basically already have one question, okay? I'll read it out. It is from Shivam. Okay, his question is, how will you convince hiring manager to give approval on salary where you need to pay some higher salary to candidate? Even hiring manager knows this skill is bit niche in the market and he or she is not interested to give more salary?
Okay. So if I get the question correct, you are hiring a niche skill, Shivam, and uh, you're definitely not able to find too many candidates, and niche skills require more salary, but when you go to your manager, he says that I cannot pay more. I hope that's correct. So such situations often come in our lives. Yeah. Uh, when you go to your hiring manager, follow the rule of taking the market analysis. Um, let's just assume you're hiring for a risk domain, or you're probably hiring for a domain which is very specialized in your company. It's always good to take 15 candidates and their salaries which are in the current market and map it with the current candidate that you're going to hire. You know, let's assume that your candidate is asking for 20 lakhs and your manager says that I'm ready to only give you 15 lakhs, you know. You can take a good comparison of the current 10 people who are already at around 18 to 20 lakhs with that experience, and you can show the hiring manager. You know, again, take that research, do your fact findings before you are proposing anything. Try it, try it with your managers. It has worked for a few of the recruiters that I know. Another thing is, if this doesn't work out, again, make sure you ask your manager about how willing is he to lose such candidates, or how important is that candidate for him. Eventually you will realize, you know, ultimately those people are going to work with them. You will realize that a hiring manager might come and ask you that, can we hire this candidate back? Because eventually once they like some candidate, I'm sure they would be ready to pay that kind of compensation also. It depends on the competencies that that candidate has. All right.
Mega. Another question is coming in from Manish. Hey Manish, thanks for joining in today. He's asking how about involvement of resource management team in expectation meeting?
Okay. So now it depends on the kind of organization dynamics that you have. It's always good. You know, so I have always seen that I haven't known too many resource managers joining in the expectations meeting because they already have had their discussion with the stakeholders. Uh, if your organization requires you to do that, why not? I also know of some companies who even involve interviews during the hiring manager's expectation meeting. If it is required for the kind of company you are, you should do it. But yes, there are certain things which you need to keep confidential. There are certain things which kind of, in case there's an internal candidate or there are things around it. So you need to see how confidential that discussion is going to be and take a decision accordingly.
Thank you, Mega. Another question coming up. It is from Sumit. Thank you, Sumit, for this question. He's asking, hiring managers are mostly concerned with technical or functional skills. It's hard to convince them to concentrate more on attitude of a particular candidate. Okay, so they will learn eventually. Any views from you?
Yes. So hiring for potential is something that I'm seeing that most of the organizations are right now focusing on. You should take your hiring manager through those kind of articles. You should let your hiring managers know, or if you have a past example in the company where a person was hired more on the potential or attitude, that's going to create a good example for your hiring manager. Sometimes, you know, it does happen, and I have seen it happening around, that a person has extremely good technical skill, but when it comes to performing, when it comes to the attitude that shows up on the job, it's not there. So the person needs to have the potential, the person needs to have the attitude to gain that technology rather than having the technology and then no attitude to go further on that technology. Yeah, so take some examples to your hiring manager, and also make sure you give them examples of other organizations who are hiring such kind of, you know, who are hiring that way. Hiring for potential, if you search in Google, that's going around everywhere right now. You should definitely make sure your hiring managers go through that kind of training. Okay.
Thank you, Mega. One last question for the day.
Sure.
Nishant is asking in volume hiring, for example, BPO, how to set hiring managers' expectation regarding candidate profiles.
Okay, so I haven't really done much of BPO hiring, but of what I look at it is, uh, it's a different ball game, and even hiring managers sometimes understand that uh, they might get people and the people might not join. I'm not too sure of what exactly are you trying to ask. Can we have him ask a little more detailed question?
Okay. We're running off of time here, but if you can specify this, he wants to ask you that how do you want to set up the bars for BPO hiring?
Okay, in terms of setting the bars for BPO hiring, you have to make sure that when you're hiring, the hiring has to be a lot in terms of the person has to look up to the job. If you're going to hire a well-trained developer for a BPO, or a guy who's already aspirant for different things, a lot of behavioral things need to be checked while you also check on the technical skills. So do let your hiring managers know that the HR discussion or the pre-attitude discussion is very important before you go on for the technical skills. And the numbers can fluctuate in terms of, BPO game is such that you offer 100, 40 end up joining. Yeah, and the 40 that who join, out of that only 30 remain in next 6 months. So do keep those expectations with your hiring managers that to be able to retain people, we need to have those bars set at the first stage itself.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mega. We have got more couple of questions running in through. So I would suggest these people. I would like to thank them. Well, I'll pass it on to you, Mega, later on after this webinar. So we are running
Sure,
out of time, so we'll have to end the webinar for today. Okay.
sure, sure, sure.
Um,
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you, Mega, for joining us today and for this wonderful topic. We'll come back again next month with some nice, interesting topic with another host. Okay, so I hope you guys be again with us for the next webinar. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.